Hello, my name is Sara Smiley Smith. I am the Associate Dean of Academic Affairs, Research, and Sustainability here at the Yale School of the Environment, and I'm also a proud alum. We are located in coastal Connecticut on land that's been stewarded by Native peoples for generations and is now the home of the Yale School of the Environment. Kroon Hall was designed to be a LEED Platinum building and help really demonstrate the school's values in its actual heart, its home. This virtual tour will give you the chance to learn more about all the different systems of this building and all the many lessons learned as we've worked to operate it over the last 10 years. Kroon has really lived up to its intent in that it provides a home for our School of the Environment here at the university. More broadly, the school served as a great testbed for a number of different technologies that the university hadn't really implemented at scale when Kroon was built. And now, 10 years on, we can see manifestations of those lessons learned across campus, whether it's the standing column well system that went into the new colleges or the proliferation of solar across the campus. There are lots of great expansions that have happened after Kroon, and I think that that's the kind of learning we want to encourage this place to do. Yale can really set an example for where we need to be experimenting and where we can learn lessons, sometimes the hard way, that can help inform better strategies for New Haven, for our region as we move ahead. Kroon Hall is located at 195 Prospect Street in New Haven, on a site that was formerly the home of a fossil fuel power plant for the larger university. Since the school's founding in 1901, we had continued to grow, and at a certain point had occupied multiple buildings up and down Prospect Street. When the work began to envision a new home, a new heart for the School of the Environment, people really wanted to find a way to help express the values of our school in the built infrastructure. Kroon Hall was envisioned by Dean Gus Speth to push the envelope of sustainable design not only at Yale but for the region and the country. Dean Speth saw the building as a living laboratory, providing learning opportunities for students, Yale facilities staff, local architects, and many others beyond the university itself. Kroon Hall is on a relatively narrow strip of land on Yale's campus. The building itself is also pretty narrow, running east to west with glass walls on those eastern and western sides, allowing a lot of daylight into the building. The southern exposure has deep window wells to help avoid a lot of heat gain during the hottest of the summer days, and the northern side is built into the hill to help provide additional insulation for the building. As opposed to many traditional buildings which have a steel superstructure, Kroon has a concrete superstructure. We utilize 10,000 tons of concrete, most of it produced using blast slag, which is a post-industrial waste material that helped to make the concrete's use in Kroon less carbon intensive. In addition to providing the superstructure, the concrete in the building also helps to serve as a home for thermal energy, absorbing heat when it's available and then slowly releasing it back into the used spaces within the building. The wood paneling that you see in Kroon Hall is red oak, 15,000 board feet of which was harvested from Yale Myers Forest, part of Yale University, and the rest was harvested from M.E.Sc certified sources. Having this much wood around is not only beautiful, but it also reminds us of the origins of our school, founded as the first forestry program in the country. Part of the LEED criteria that this building was working to comply with included having your materials sourced from within a certain radius of the construction site. As a result, the sandstone that was used for Kroon Hall was quarried in Ohio, under 500 miles away from campus. Kroon was designed to be extremely energy efficient. This really permeates every aspect of the design, from the physical structure to the way energy is used in classrooms and throughout the building. Kroon has a 100 kilowatt hour array of solar panels on the roof, which provides roughly 25% of the building's energy needs on a day-to-day basis. The east-west orientation enables a lot of ambient light to make it into the very interior spaces of the building and helps reduce the amount of electrical light that needs to be provided. At either end of the building, on those east-west faces, we have louvers that are installed at exactly 23 degrees. This is meant to help keep out the very hottest of the sun's summer rays while also allowing in as much light as possible for the rest of the year. From its inception, Kroon has had very efficient light, but it's amazing how in just 10 years that standard has continued to change, and we've renovated the lighting system a few times in order to maintain the most energy efficient infrastructure that we possibly can have. Kroon utilizes a red and green light system to help occupants understand when it's energy efficient to open windows as opposed to when it's more energy efficient for the building to actually keep the windows closed. When the red lights are on, that means that the windows should remain closed, and when the green lights are on, that means the windows can be opened. Kroon was designed to really stand alone in terms of its heating and cooling needs. It was built with a series of standing column open wells that were drilled into Sachem's wood. These wells moved water from the really stable temperatures underground into the building through a heat exchange mechanism, through an air handling unit, and then through an open plenum system, which reduced friction of moving air through the building throughout all of the spaces that humans occupy. This system operated very well for a number of years. However, more recently, we have come to understand that our standing column well system is facing some significant challenges. As an open well system, it pulls water from the rock and thus moves with it minerals that also can cause trouble for these types of systems over time. The schools pursued a number of different expert opinions on these wells and learned a tremendous amount. For example, that the stone that exists in Sachem's wood has contributed significantly to the pipes having a lot of material and corrosion that has caused them to be less useful as a straw over time. As a result, we now understand that to really make this system work effectively, we would need to invest as a school in either more wells or to retrofit our system to make it a closed loop system, which would help us to avoid a lot of this challenge that we're facing within the existing infrastructure. The positive of this is that while we were learning all of these difficult lessons about the reality of what was happening with our system here at Kroon, the university more broadly was able to apply those lessons in new systems that they were putting in. For example, with the new colleges, all of the standing column well systems that were put in there are closed loop, and thus they won't see these same challenges down the road, and hopefully will have much more efficient and long-term operation. In a traditional building, you would often see air moving through installed ductwork and wires and electrical and plumbing moving through the walls. In Kroon Hall, things are set up a little bit differently with our plenum system. What this really means is that our floor is sort of like a sandwich. We have space between the floor below and the floor you might stand on. This enables all of the important systems of the building to run in that open plenum space. This really gives you a number of advantages. One of them is that instead of forcing air through what would be tiny straws within a building, you have the ability to move air with less fan velocity just through the floor space and allow the air to move up through the floor more naturally. I think some of the most exciting moments for me in this building have been seeing students tackle things that don't make sense and using it as a laboratory for their own learning. We had an excellent student working with us trying to examine various ways that we might reduce energy use within Kroon Hall. This student looked at our HVAC system and began to notice some unusual peaks in demand really early in the morning when you wouldn't otherwise expect that the building was using a lot of energy. What he was able to deduce was that our air handling system was pulling in outside air all year round at startup. What this meant was in the winter, when we could instead possibly recirculate indoor air and heat that to the required temperature, we were instead pulling in 20-degree air from outside. This type of programming challenge was really educational for us in a number of ways, because what we came to understand rather quickly was these wonderful German air handling units were also programmed in German. Solving problems took a long time and was really challenging. The way it eventually was rectified was bringing an engineer from Germany to the site to help us reprogram our units and train people here on how to use those. Technology has helped us to improve our ability to interact with these units today, so we don't see these same kinds of challenges now, which is a great advance for the school. being on Science Hill, we have to be really aware of water, especially as more dramatic rainfall events are happening in and around New Haven. When Kroon was designed, there was a lot of thought put into how rainwater was going to be managed on site. When rain hits the roof of Kroon Hall, it moves through a gutter system and into Mars Pond. From the pond, it then makes its way into a holding tank within Kroon Hall. Blue dye is applied to the water in that context, and it's then used as gray water for toilets within the building. A portion of the rainwater that hits the roof of Kroon Hall also makes its way to a 10,000-gallon holding tank that's built into the berm next to our green roof or our Kroon courtyard. The idea with this holding tank is that it helps to slowly release the water through small holes into the ground instead of allowing it to run down into the intersection and cause the flooding that was historically much more of a norm. Mars Pond has been a great example of using this building as a living laboratory for the school and the broader university. We don't have a lot of ponds on Yale's campus, but this one has a lot of unique features that I think set it apart as well. The pond also has some stresses that we have to deal with, in that the pump that feeds the pond and moves the water through the system requires that it stay in prime and that the water be a certain depth at all times. As a result, during dry periods, we need to feed the pond with potable water in order to maintain that water level. We've been brainstorming with Yale facilities the possibility of converting the pond to more of a dry riverbed system. This would allow the pond to go dry when there wasn't enough rainwater to feed it, and to be a lush green environment when there was enough rainwater to feed it. This requires a lot of thinking about what kind of plants could survive in such an environment, and is something that I hope to work with students on in the coming years. It's also been really important for Kroon that we are on a bus line, that we're very bike accessible, and we've continued to advocate for bike accessibility as other projects are happening around us on campus. In particular, the Sachem's Wood renovation that's recently been completed really helps to better provide bike connectivity to a lot of the neighborhoods where our students live, and more safe bike travel in and around the school's buildings. Originally, the space between Kroon Hall and Sage Hall was envisioned to be a grassy area, and over time, it just didn't quite take. We've had many students over recent years serving in the role of forest garden steward, helping to plant native species in the space, bring the community, both our Y.S.C. community and our broader New Haven community, into the space to learn about agroforestry, learn about native plants, learn about things like growing mushrooms, inoculating our logs that we have lining our pathways with different mushrooms. It's been a tremendous learning space for the school, and it really fits, nestled within the heart of this place, right next to Kroon Hall and in the nook of Sage Hall. I hope that as stewards of this building, we continue to enable the kind of experimentation that we have done to this point. I think that's what really brings the personality out of this place. It has so many quirks, it has all sorts of challenging corners, but there's so much that we can gain from spending time and really trying to assess and tinker with what's happening in this building. We have a tremendous opportunity the way we need to continue to evolve our operations, whether it's new changes to our HVAC system, contemplating the possibility that Mars Pond becomes a dry riverbed, or thinking more about how the forest garden can connect us to the broader community. There's so much opportunity that our students can really capitalize on, really thinking about our school as a laboratory for their own studies and their own knowledge generation as they are trying to figure out how they're going to apply what they're learning in the classroom to the broader world.